India, a land of vibrant colors, rich history, and diverse cultures, was once known as the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. Its vast landscapes, from the snow-capped Himalayas to the sun-kissed beaches of the south, have always been a source of fascination and wonder. But this beauty hid a darker truth, a reality marred by exploitation and subjugation. For centuries, India was under British rule, its people subject to foreign laws and exploitation. The British imposed their will, often with an iron fist, on a land that was rich in resources and culture. How did a small island nation gain control over a land as vast and ancient as India? The answer lies in a combination of military might, strategic alliances, and economic manipulation. This is a tale of cunning strategies, political maneuvering, and the relentless pursuit of power that shaped the destiny of millions. The British were adept at playing local rulers against each other, exploiting existing rivalries to their advantage. The story begins long before the British Crown directly ruled India. It starts with the arrival of European traders, each vying for a piece of India's lucrative trade. It starts with a trading company, the East India Company, which arrived on Indian shores seeking spices and riches. What began as a commercial venture soon turned into a quest for territorial control. Little did anyone know, this seemingly harmless trade mission would be the first step towards a long and tumultuous period of colonial domination. The East India Company gradually expanded its influence, using both diplomacy and force. The British were not the first to recognize India's wealth and strategic importance. Long before them, other empires and traders had sought to tap into India's riches. Over the centuries, many had come seeking to control this prized land. The Mughals, the Portuguese, the Dutch, all had their eyes set on India. However, the British, through a combination of shrewd tactics and the exploitation of existing divisions within India, managed to establish a foothold that would eventually grow into an empire. They capitalized on internal conflicts and used superior military technology to their advantage. The story of British rule in India is a complex and often troubling one, marked by both moments of cultural exchange and periods of brutal oppression. The British introduced new systems of governance and education, but these were often designed to serve their own interests. Understanding this history is crucial, not just for comprehending the past, but also for navigating the present. The impact of colonialism is still felt today, influencing India's social, economic, and political landscapes. The legacy of colonialism continues to shape India and its relationship with the world, making it essential to examine the mechanisms by which British control was established and maintained. By understanding this complex history, we can better appreciate the resilience and diversity of modern India. The East India Company, initially focused on trade, gradually expanded its influence through a combination of shrewd business dealings and military might. They exploited the existing political fragmentation of India, making alliances with local rulers and playing them against each other. This strategy of divide and rule would become a cornerstone of British control. The company's army, composed primarily of Indian sepoys, helped solidify their power. These soldiers, often better equipped and trained than the armies of local rulers, gave the company a decisive military edge. Victories in key battles, like the Battle of Plassey in 1757, further cemented their dominance. However, the company's rule was not without its challenges. Uprisings and rebellions, fueled by resentment against the company's growing power and exploitative policies, became increasingly common. The British response was often brutal, marked by massacres and the annexation of territories. Despite the resistance, the East India Company's grip on India tightened throughout the 18th century. They collected taxes, established administrative systems, and exerted increasing control over the Indian economy. What began as a trading venture had transformed into a powerful political force, effectively ruling vast swaths of the Indian subcontinent. This period laid the foundation for the British Crown to formally take over the reins of power in the following century. The year 1857 marked a turning point in the history of British rule in India. It was a year that would forever change the relationship between Britain and its most prized colony. The Sepoy Mutiny, sparked by controversial rifle cartridges greased with animal fat, spread like wildfire across northern India. This rebellion, also known as the First War of Indian Independence, saw Indian soldiers, or sepoys, rise up against their British officers. Although brutally suppressed by the British, the uprising exposed the vulnerabilities of company rule and led to significant changes in the administration of India. The rebellion highlighted the deep-seated discontent among the Indian populace and the inadequacies of the East India Company's governance. The British Crown, alarmed by the scale of the rebellion, decided to dissolve the East India Company and assume direct control over India. This marked the end of company rule and the beginning of a new era. Queen Victoria was proclaimed the Empress of India, ushering in the era of the British Raj. This proclamation was not just a change in title, but a declaration of the British Crown's commitment to its Indian territories. The transfer of power from the company to the Crown marked a significant shift, with the British government now directly responsible for the governance of India. This transition aimed to bring stability and order to a region that had been rocked by rebellion. The British administration underwent a period of reform and reorganization. New policies were introduced to prevent future uprisings and to integrate Indian society more closely with British interests. A new civil service was established, staffed by Britons who were trained to administer the vast and complex Indian territories. These civil servants were expected to implement British policies and maintain order. The British Indian Army, reorganized and strengthened after the mutiny, became a symbol of British power and a tool to maintain order. The army was crucial in enforcing British rule and quelling any signs of dissent. This period also saw the expansion of British infrastructure in India. The British invested heavily in building roads, railways and canals to facilitate the movement of goods and troops. Railways, canals and telegraph lines were built, not only to facilitate trade and communication, but also to consolidate British control and facilitate the movement of troops. These developments were seen as essential for maintaining British dominance. The British Raj, with its centralized administration and vast bureaucratic machinery, aimed to solidify British control over India for centuries to come. The British sought to create a stable and profitable colony that would serve their interests well into the future. Section 4. Divide and Conquer. Sowing seeds of discord. Central to the British strategy of maintaining control over India was the policy of divide and rule. This approach was not just a tactic, but a deeply ingrained strategy that permeated every aspect of their governance. The British recognized the diversity of India, its multitude of languages, religions, and ethnicities, and sought to exploit these differences to prevent a united front against their rule. They understood that a divided population would be easier to manage and control. They fueled existing tensions between Hindus and Muslims, exacerbating religious differences for political gain. By playing one community against another, they ensured that the focus remained on internal conflicts rather than on the colonial oppressors. The British also favored certain groups, such as the Sikhs and certain princely states, offering them privileges and positions of power in exchange for loyalty. This selective favoritism created a hierarchy of trust and dependency. This created a system of patronage and division, where communities were pitted against each other, weakening any potential for a unified resistance. The British were adept at manipulating social and political structures to their advantage. This policy of divide and conquer was ruthlessly effective. It was a calculated move that ensured the British could maintain their grip on power with minimal direct intervention. It prevented the emergence of a pan-Indian identity and ensured that any opposition to British rule remained fragmented and localized. The lack of a unified national movement made it difficult for Indians to mount a significant challenge to British authority. The British administration, through its policies and actions, deliberately sowed seeds of discord, creating a climate of mistrust and suspicion among different communities within India. This atmosphere of distrust was carefully cultivated to keep the population divided. The legacy of this divide and rule policy continues to haunt India even today. The scars left by this strategy are visible in the socio-political fabric of the nation. The partition of India and Pakistan in 1947, along religious lines, was a tragic consequence of this British strategy. The division led to one of the largest mass migrations in history and left a deep and lasting impact on the subcontinent. The communal tensions that continue to simmer in the Indian subcontinent are a stark reminder of the enduring impact of this colonial tactic. The seeds of discord sown by the British have grown into deep-rooted issues that still affect the region's stability and harmony. Section 5. A voice, but muted. The Indian National Congress. While the British administration tightened its grip on India, a new force was emerging: Indian nationalism. The Indian National Congress, founded in 1885, provided a platform for educated Indians to voice their grievances and demand greater autonomy. Initially, the INC's demands were moderate, focusing on reforms within the existing system. They advocated for greater Indian representation in the administration, increased spending on education and healthcare, and an end to discriminatory policies. The British, however, viewed the INC with suspicion, often dismissing their demands and characterizing them as unrepresentative of the Indian masses. Despite facing restrictions and censorship, the INC played a crucial role in shaping Indian political consciousness. It provided a forum for debate and discussion, fostering a sense of unity and shared purpose among Indians from different regions and backgrounds. The INC's early years were marked by internal debates on the best approach to achieve self-rule. While some advocated for gradual reform and cooperation with the British, others argued for a more assertive stance, demanding complete independence. This debate between moderates and extremists within the INC would shape the course of the Indian freedom struggle in the decades to come. If you found this exploration into history intriguing, don't forget to like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to Crazy Color Facts for more captivating stories from the past. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring.